Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rewatch Project with Hannah and Mike. I am Mike, and with me, as always, is Hannah. How the devil are you?
I'm ready to delve into Babylon 5 and forget about the real world
Season
today.
2, baby. It occurs to me we completely forgot to do a sorbet, didn't we?
Yeah, we really did. But I think, so for new viewers, what we tend to do in between seasons is what we call a sorbet episode, where Mike will pick one thing and I'll pick one thing.
Generally unconnected.
Just to cleanse the palate in between seasons.
Yeah.
But we've gone right in from entree to main.
Yes, because we did have a bit of a lull in recording because of life stuff. We've talked about it before. So
I think we should keep the momentum going.
Absolutely. So that's what we're doing, and we're here. What are we talking about tonight, Hannah?
Well, tonight we're talking about Season 2, Episode 1, namely Points of Departure of Babylon 5. The synopsis says, as Captain John Sheridan assumes command of Babylon 5, he learns the reason why the Minbari inexplicably surrendered to Earth in the Earth-Minbari War, while a renegade Minbari ship seeks to restart it. It is directed by Janet Greek and written by J. Michael Straczynski.
All right, we'll get to that in a moment. Quick bit of housekeeping. A reminder that we do appreciate feedback. You can email us at rewatchprojectpodcast@gmail.com, or alternatively, you can just leave comments on this here channel and we will reply if it feels feedback in nature. Also, a reminder to check out our friend shows, namely Chinstroker versus Punter, The Good, the Bad, and the Odd, Talk with That Rhythm, and Film Bastards. And also, likes and subscribes, very much appreciated. The more people who subscribe, the easier it is to find this channel, the more conversation ensues. And that is the primary motivator for doing these with a greater level of regularity. You want to keep us regular, don't you? It's very important.
It's like the sci-fi fibre.
It is, exactly. And last but not least, we do appreciate donations via PayPal, but if and only if you can afford to do so without causing yourself any financial hardship, because we can take contributions in other forms, whether that be feedback or just sharing or just watching and listening is all very much
Get
appreciated.
5 of your friends to subscribe.
Exactly. And also just a reminder to those who listen to the podcast in the traditional sense that we are also on YouTube and we have other content there as well. So do we have any feedback, Hannah?
We sure do.
Excellent.
We've got some lovely YouTube comments, so I'm just going to go through them. So these are all on our last episode, which was the final of Season 1. Chrysalis. Simon Giles, 9749, says, you're not at the point where every episode is written by JMS yet. That's near the end of Season 2, at about the same time that the studio stopped sending notes.
I'm certain, though, that there's less episodes written by non-JMS writers in Season 2, though, at least.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you're right.
So, but no, that is a good point. That's a good point, yeah.
Yep. Don't worry, I will be checking each one to make sure I've got the accuracy of it. The coolest of cool daddies, our regular amazing feedbacker.
Indeed.
He's got a number of comments, but his first one says, oh yeah, B5 does the reveals so exquisitely, especially the huge reveal for a certain character in Season 3. He gives you enough hints that if you're really paying attention, you could guess it, but normally on first watch, they usually hit you out of left field. And on subsequent watches, the full masterfulness of JMS's writing is revealed as well.
Well, just evidence that it was planned and that it wasn't just a kind of
crazy random happenstance.
Yeah, like a retcon.
Yeah. He goes on to say about the familial relationships, according to his book Becoming Superman, JMS's dad was an insanely evil demon, so the only paternal references would be to dysfunctional relationships at best.
So I guess it's just art then, the kind of positive parental relationships.
Right, that's good to know. I wasn't aware of that.
Well, also, you could flip it and say that it's wish fulfillment.
Yes, absolutely.
That this is the ideal.
I suppose that's a bit like Spielberg, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a father figure introduced. I won't say too much more into Babylon 5. I think probably in this season actually, who's such an idealized dad that I was positing incorrectly, it would seem in the last episode, that it felt that so many of the relationships were father-son relationships that it felt like maybe that was just coming from the pen of the auteur. But I guess it's just for father-son relationships have had a powerful effect on JMS, and that might be manifesting itself as trying to create an ideal.
Yeah. In the last lot of feedback, he made a comment about butter on a stick, and we couldn't remember what we'd been talking about.
Yeah.
He said the butter thing is at 25:21 in the last video. There was a plate of butter with a garnish, and it was eaten by itself. Wow. It was us talking about you eating a whole load of butter. Thinking it was a cheese salad.
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying.
I can't believe we didn't get that, actually.
Yeah.
It seems,
Cool Daddy also says, yes, it's great how they don't shy from doing what the scene requires, even full body makeup. And the next sentence is potentially my favourite sentence I've heard this year. I just don't want to see Snow White and the Seven Nans in-universe porn from Crusade.
Wow.
No offence regarding healthcare stuff. When it comes to healthcare, health outcomes and stuff like that, the USA is a third world country. Cherish your NHS.
You said it.
Cool Daddy, you're a gold medalist when it comes to YouTube comments. I'm well impressed.
You keep us regular, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Also, I noticed I am going to...
You are the rock, as we have said before.
Yeah, I am going to need to find a way to get our alerts going back up again, because I have noticed comments for older episodes coming in.
Yeah, because just a look behind the curtain, we used to get notifications through to our email that there'd been YouTube comments. So it was really easy to see when someone had commented on an episode or whatever. And now, for some reason,
I know why.
Them.
Apparently, it's once you get over a certain amount of feedback from YouTube, your email starts to see it as spam.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to have to figure out some other way of doing it. But the reason I mention it is I noticed, for some bizarre reason, the episode we did a sorbet episode we did where we covered the pilot of Millennium has gone like semi-viral and has like an insane amount of views.
Oh, really?
And I just keep seeing comments and discussion popping in on that one for some bizarre reason. It's just... Who knows what takes off when you put it out there in the world? But,
we do some good stuff on the sorbet episodes. We've done all kinds of things.
Well, they often find listeners who are outside of the podcast who are just looking for something on, like the Conan the Barbarian one we did is, I think, like our second most viewed video.
Yeah.
I have no idea why.
And we wet the whistle for some fans of Fringe, because we did we do the pilot of Fringe?
Yeah, I think we did.
And I felt really bad about that, because it's one of my favourite, it is my favourite sci-fi series. And I think some viewers thought that we were covering it in its entirety, which I'm sure we will do at some point. But yeah, we only did one episode as a sorbet.
And it was funny, we did the first, I think, 2 episodes of the X-Files as well, and that led to like a 3-year long rewatch, didn't it?
That
was a non-podcast,
unexpected rewatch for you, watch for me.
Yeah.
Mike had been trying to get me to watch X-Files for
our entire relationship,
because primarily because I love Fringe so much. And he was like, if you love Fringe, you would love X-Files. And I was always sure I would be too frightened. But then obviously gave it a go and realised I was talking out of my ass. And it was
just knew you'd like the characters. With you, that's ultimately what will get you.
That's what keeps me watching.
Yeah, it's
if I can connect in some way.
Yeah, it's chemistry.
Yeah. And obviously Babylon 5 has that in spades. It's amazing.
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to hit pause. We're going to watch Points of Departure. the first episode of season 2. And it's worth mentioning as well, actually. Actually, no, I'll hold off because I know that we do chapterize this on YouTube. And I think a lot of people do skip to the beginning of the episode review. Yeah. So I'll save the gold.
Save it for after.
Yeah, it's gold, Jerry. So yeah, we're going to hit pause. We're going to watch Points of Departure, and then we'll come back and tell you what we thought. Okay, so we've just finished watching the first episode of season 2 of Babylon 5, Points of Departure. And as I was going to say before we watched it, it's worth mentioning, I've said before that each season of Babylon 5 has a name. Season 1 was Signs and Portents. And the overall chapter title for season 2 is The Coming of Shadows. So I just thought I'd mention that at the top of the season. Hannah, initial thoughts?
This started off with a hiss and a roar, and I think you can really tell that the show has gone up a gear from the start.
In what sense?
It just felt tighter. The performances,
that's a good word for it, actually. Yeah,
the performances are all like, obviously in season 1, I've enjoyed all the performances.
It was a lot. It felt a lot more slick, didn't it? For want of a better word.
Yeah, and like I love Sinclair, and I remember the first time round watching this and being sad that he wasn't there.
But Bruce Boxleitner is such a pro, isn't he?
He is. He became a fast favourite for me because he you can just see you're in safe hands.
Well, Bruce Boxleitner is just a really good actor, but also he's a workman. You know, like he has done. I mean, he's nearly, with a couple of exceptions, Tron being the obvious one, he's proudly a television actor. Like, you know, by trade, you know, I mean, he was the star, and he understands television acting in the way that Robert De Niro understands film acting, you know?
He's got a great presence as well. And I think the other thing that I really enjoyed about this episode is, even though there's conflict externally with his appointment, as in, you know, he has this issue with the Minbari and, you know, all of whatever that's going to bring, and, you know, so on and so forth. To see him arrive and for his crew to just be okay with it and to be happy with him and not to be sniping behind his back or there to be any kind of internal team conflict, it's refreshing. Because generally when you have someone new come in, they devise it to be problematic.
Yeah, and then over time they'll learn to work with each other.
Yeah, exactly. And it just gets a bit formulaic and boring.
Yeah.
So it was really nice.
It's not fun to watch.
No, it was really nice to see him come in and for everyone to go, oh, actually, I think he's going to be great. You know, what do you think of the new guy? Oh, I think he's really good.
And the thing about Bruce Boxleitner as well is that he, I mean, like I say, he starred in. He's one of those people who has worked his entire career. I mean, he started off in, you know, God, I think like Little House on the Prairie, and he did Bring 'Em Back Alive. It was a great TV show he was in the early 80s. Scarecrow and Mrs. King. That ran for years, that show did. You know, obviously Babylon 5 as well. And he still works. He's still in tons of stuff. You know, he's one of those people who is just... And he's got a very different energy to Michael O'Hare, because Michael O'Hare played a kind of weary, kind of exhausted with the bureaucracy and the politics, kind of, oh God, what now? Was kind of... I mean, he played it with nobility and strength and leadership. But there was a kind of, oh my God, what now? Whereas Bruce Boxleitner has more of a kind of earnest, almost Boy Scout kind of energy about him.
I sort of saw it like Sinclair. He has, like, you're right, he does have that weary energy, but I sort of feel like that's come from having to do all the setup stuff and all of the, like, bogged down and all the initial red tape. And when you think about it, that's kind of what season 1 is. There's a lot of setup. There's a lot of establishment. And, you know, you are going to have a world-weary commander in that kind of scenario. Now it's time for John Sheridan to come in, and he is very experienced in war, yet he retains compassion and enthusiasm and lateral thinking. And you see that in the episode where he's attentive to what people are saying. Oh, they said there's only honor in death, so what does that mean, and how can we use that? And he doesn't let anything brush over him. He's very pays attention to the detail.
In many ways, in this at this early stage at least, he's much more of a traditional television character.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know what their differences in age are, but he feels a lot younger.
Yeah.
He's got a more youthful energy. Whereas, because Sinclair feels like your dad a little bit.
Sinclair looks like he's got 5 o'clock shadow all the time.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's the big change. But so you were saying there. So what else? What else? Top level.
Top
thoughts?
level. I really enjoyed the change in Lanier in his authority and command of his position, and it was lovely to see. It's time for him to come into his own position, and to see him very much.
Well, he knows what's going on,
but also you can see why he's been selected for the role that he has to be Delen's assistant.
Well, he's a fundamentalist.
Yeah. But
that's been his entire life.
But to this point, you've seen quite a soft Lanier.
Well, largely comedic as well. That's the other thing. Yeah,
so to see him very up to the minute on the details.
With his sci-fi kung fu fingers as well.
So that was really good. What else did I like?
The big thing about this episode, of course, is how few of the regular characters are in it.
Yeah.
Which is a really audacious way to start the season, but kind of necessary, because what it does is it leaves the stage free for Sheridan to establish himself as a character.
I think he needed the space.
That shows a tremendous amount of confidence in their new lead actor to be able to do that. To hand over the keys to the kingdom for the whole of the first episode of this second season, when there was probably a certain amount of uncertainty. And it's worth mentioning as well that at the time, none of us knew why the change had happened. Officially, at the time, it was said that it was always the plan, and that it was amicable and that it was mutual. And there were rumours, but it wasn't until after Michael O'Hare's death that JMS...
Wasn't there an issue with his mental health?
It was a mental health issue, yeah. He had... it was like extreme bipolarism. I might even actually see if I can find it and play it, because what happened, because after Michael O'Hare died, JMS basically said, I can tell you what happened now. This was only a few years ago.
Okay.
Let me find it, because I feel like it needs to be I'll play all of this because it's kind of the elephant in the room.
This has never been discussed anywhere until this moment. Into the first year of working with Michael, I began to notice problems. Good guy, good actor, but there were things happening that I couldn't account for behaviorally. But halfway through, I asked him to come in, we talked, seemed fine, back to work. And end of the day, we talked to him again when he was more tired. And he began to manifest symptoms of psychosis, where he talked about looking for messages to him in the papers, that the FBI was following him, that he was getting secret messages in television programs. And I realized he was heading for a psychotic break. My psychology background came into play. And I didn't know what to do, because when he was most of the time he was fine. But every so often, under stress, out would come delusional behavior. Oh, what do I do? What do I do? My first show, first season, if I tell Warners about this, they'll pull the plug. I finally decided I'm going to tell Warner's. I have to. I talked to Michael. I said, we need to get you. We don't have the power to force you to get medication, but I can stop this so you can get the care you need. He says, don't do it. Don't do it. I can't be responsible for the show shutting down, everyone losing their jobs. I can get through this. If you help me, I can get through this. And I said, if you really want a chance, I'll give you that chance. But we're going to assign someone to work with you and keep an eye on you. The moment the needle goes into the red, we're pulling the plug. Understand that? He said, I understand. I will work with you and we'll make this happen. And he held on by his fingernails for that season. I could see the strain it was taking on him, the toll it was taking, but he held on. And I was at any moment prepared to pull the trigger on this thing. He finished the season up, and I pulled him into the office. I said, you and I both know this is getting worse. You both know you're not going to make it to another season if things stay the way they are. I'm going to move on from you as the commander of the station. Don't worry about it. Whatever your rent needs are for the while, I'll take care of it. Food, I got it covered. We will get you treatment. We will get you better. And I spent the next year or so working with him and to a degree with his family to get him the care that he needed while we brought on Sheridan to say that role. And got him the proper meds. It was a long process of getting it worked out. I said, we're going to keep working with you and make this better, and I'll keep the secret to my grave. He says, you don't have to. He says, look, keep it to my grave. Because if anything ever happens to me, I want people to know that this is a problem, and here's why I left. Because people need to know that there's a problem in their family. If this can happen to an actor, a star of a show, a commander of a station, it can happen to anyone, and it's not a scandalous thing. It can be dealt with. So if anything ever happens to me, I want you to be free to talk about this. I said, well, it's not going to happen. You're going to outlive all of us. So, yeah. And in the years that passed, he stayed on the meds. He got married. He had a kid. He started to get his acting career back together. For reasons unknown, he fell off the meds. And the fall was hard. We tried to keep in touch with him. He just disappeared off the grid and ended up in a halfway house under medication. And just this past year, passed away from a heart attack. And when I go to this convention in Phoenix in about a week and a half, I will be telling that story for the first time ever.
It's so tragic.
We lost a number of cast members from the show, and that one was the most tragic because he fought so hard to make that work and to come back. And it's a terrible loss.
Yeah, so that's basically what happened. But at the time, none of us, and again, it's completely understandable. And it sounds like they dealt with it as well as they could.
You've got to commend them for the fact that they've actually given his mental health a sense of priority because, I have mental health struggles, nothing to that degree, obviously. Well, not obviously, but I don't.
No, in Hannah's case, the FBI actually are after her.
But, I think...
well, it was a different time as well,
to
wasn't
know
it?
that it's taken seriously and actually you're supported rather than chucked away and just seemed as defective is pretty forward-thinking of them. And like you say, a different time, there's less support around for people. I would hope that things are significantly better now, but who knows? I think it depends who you're dealing with.
And it must have been really difficult as well because he was in every episode. It wasn't like a lot of ensemble sci-fi shows like, Deep Space Nine, where you might just get Cisco might just wander in and hand somebody a data pad in one episode and then it goes back. The first season wasn't like that. It was he was heavily featured in every single episode.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'm surprised at I remember the alien characters being in more episodes than they were.
Yeah.
And I didn't recollect Sinclair just featuring constantly.
But what's really interesting is this is for the first time since that little reshuffle they had after the pilot, where actually thinking about it, Night of the Living Dead should have been our sorbet because of Patricia Tallman.
Yeah.
Because obviously Patricia Tallman was in the pilot and was replaced, and a number of other characters as well, like the second in command, the sort of pre-Ivanova, and the Doctor. But this is a significant change, and what this is a great example of is what JMS calls the trapdoor, which is where he's got this storyline planned, but sometimes when you're doing a TV show, particularly a low-budget TV show over 5 years, sometimes actors are unavailable, people die, people have extreme health problems like Michael O'Hare
People
did.
get pregnant.
Exactly.
That can change things if they don't want to act anymore, or if they need to take time off.
So what's happening here, and it's interesting as well that I think it's coded by the fact that Sheridan and Sinclair have got the same initials. They're both JS. Or that could just be a JMS thing, a Joe Straczynski thing. I don't know.
Maybe.
But basically what's happened is Sheridan has essentially inherited Sinclair's storyline.
Yeah.
There are some changes, but we'll get to those probably in spoiler sections later on. But that's what's happened. But I think what it does is it gives the show a shot in the arm. And go on.
Oh no, I was just going to say I think it does. I think he has breathed new life into it, and by no means it was on the way out or anything. Like I really enjoyed watching season 1.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think what it feels like is it feels like it makes the show more accessible. I feel like he's a more accessible character and acting style. Everything about him is just easier and more. And I don't mean to say this reductive, because Bruce Boxleitner is just one of my favourite genre actors. But I just think that it's more digestible in some ways.
I just found him very, and this isn't him as well as the writing for him. Like, you're right, he does make it more accessible to new viewers, I think, because he has a really great way of delivering exposition well, like, and also, succinctly. Not like me saying it.
Also, his character is new to the environment, so it gives the show an excuse
to go back over things,
to recover things, which is kind of what you need to do. I mean, there's a moment in...
He's sort of the previously on Babylon 5 without being previously on Babylon 5. It reminded
me a lot. This episode reminds me a lot of the first episode of season 2 of Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when Cooper wakes up after being shot, and Lucy's kind of like, so the mill burnt down, Leo Johnson's been shot, but Pete Martell's got smoke inhalation, and he's like, oh my God, how long was I out? And, you get Ivanova kind of delivering that exact same thing to him. And you've got her log at the beginning. But I think the thing that...
The log is really helpful, actually.
Yeah.
Because it's a bit like Kate Blanchett doing at the start of one of the Lord of the Rings films about how they've got to this point.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that I'll just segue into my thoughts. I really like this episode as well. But it feels like this episode kind of has a job to do. It feels, I don't say this critically, but this is a very functional episode.
There's a lot happening in it.
It has to introduce a new character. It has to deal with, I don't think that they would have laid out all of the stuff about the Minbari souls this early if Sinclair had carried on the show.
I don't think so either.
I think that they were like, you know what, we're going to have to sacrifice that secret early. So, but it does make sense, the idea that, and...
It doesn't feel premature, though.
Well, they need to explain where Sinclair's gone.
Yeah.
And I think that giving that was... And also, they're not telling you the whole story. There's more to it than that.
There's always more to it with Minbari.
Yeah. But also, I like the fact that the show now has a proper opening credit sequence.
Yeah.
With people laughing and with pictures. Yeah. And I like Bruce Boxleitner's voiceover.
Yep.
At the beginning.
He's got a great voice.
I mean, apparently it's not a dangerous place anymore. There's no reference to it being a dangerous place.
Maybe it was only dangerous for Sinclair.
but the fact that the actual dialogue is different as well. Like he says, it was the year the Great War came upon us, and what that's showing you is that unlike Star Trek, which of course has the static, Space to Final Frontier opening, this shows you that this show evolves.
Yeah.
Literally the opening credits, obviously the year, because each show is a calendar year, and what the narration is telling you the show is makes a big difference.
I think it's really helpful knowing that each season is a year.
Yeah. And I think it says a lot about the show that you can remove, and I'm not just talking about like Delenn and Jakar and Londo. I mean, Garibaldi's in a coma, and, it's like, I mean, really, the only one of the main crew that you spend any time with in this episode is Ivanova. You see the Doctor very briefly.
Yeah.
Lanier essentially is a secondary character. He's part of the larger ensemble.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, we get the,
get a dribble out of Delenn.
Yeah, exactly. we get the dead meat pilot guy who's introduced in this episode, Warren Keffer, who was I think he was studio mandated. They said to JMS, look, we want a younger character in there.
Yeah.
Who's going to be like a hotshot kind of maverick
I must
pilot.
admit, I did think, who is this suddenly pally with Ivanova?
Yeah.
Doctor
and it's
come from nowhere.
It's like the character at the beginning of season 2 of Fringe, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Where they like
it was Meghan Markle.
Yeah. Well, there was, I can't remember what TV show it was, but there was a character. It was like one of those shows, like it was one of the many procedural shows that came out in the sort of 2000s. But there was a character in it, and her surname, she was reintroduced. Her surname was Poochie, and it was because, have you seen the Simpsons episode with Poochie?
No.
Well, what it was there's
I seem to remember you telling me that.
It's an episode of The Simpsons where on Itchy and Scratchy, the networks decide that they need to reinvigorate the show for a younger audience. So they introduced this awful dog character called Poochie, who wears his cap backwards and just goes totally extreme at the camera and just does all this sort of stuff. And it's awful. And apparently that episode, it became a righteous term where there was a character type and it would be called a Poochie.
Right.
Like they'd be like, oh, the studio is saying we've got to have a Poochie, which usually means a new character designed to bring in new audiences and create an excuse to have extra exposition to get new audiences in. And there was, I think it was Burn Notice or one of those shows, they were told that to bring this character in, and they gave her the surname Poochie. I mean, I feel bad for the actress. She was just setting up to do work.
Yeah.
As
long as she's got paid.
Warren Keffer, bless him, and I like the actor because he's been in a bunch of. He was in like Nightmare on Elm Street. He's a great genre actor. But JMS did it under duress. I'm pretty sure
he was in a film called Shag that I watched.
Yeah, he was in a lot of mid to late 80s. Yeah,
one of my favourite.
But he does feel a little bit like that. But I guess what I'm saying though is it's a testimony to the show that you can have so few of this. Even when Babylon 5 is fighting with one of its hands tied behind its back, it still packs a punch.
I think it's a testament to how good this episode is that I really considered suggesting we do a double bill.
Yeah. I mean, it's
because I just wanted to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing as well is that you're starting to see the show become more obviously episodic. Like the fact that you see the chrysalis starting to crack. Yeah. Leading into the next episode. The first season, outside of two-parters, didn't really do that.
No,
it didn't
was very self-contained.
Yeah. But whereas this wasn't a to be continued. It wasn't I don't think they're going to make it. It was just this storyline will continue in the next episode.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting change.
I think that's very common, especially for sci-fi shows, when they get established enough that they've got a good fan base, that they don't have to rely on those one and done episodes, that they know they've got a core group of viewers who are going to tune in every week to find out.
Sometimes also it's the point where they give up trying to get new viewers.
Yeah, true.
Where they kind of exist. The other thing as well is what I think might have happened is because there are still standalones in season 2. I think once you get to season 3, I don't think there are. There are very few.
This TV show and Fringe are both shows that it gets to a point where if you tried to watch,
the cost of entry is huge. After you'd
just
point.
Be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. And this is back at the time as well when the TV networks, they did want to make sure that the cost of entry was as low as possible for audience members. But the other thing as well, though, I suspect might be happening here is often with season premieres, they'd sometimes show the first 2 episodes back to back. So I wonder whether maybe in some markets, the first 2 episodes went out together anyway. So there maybe JMS was able to negotiate a little bit of special dispensation, creative dispensation there. The other thing I want to mention as well is the look of the show's changed a little bit as well.
Yeah, it looks slicker.
Yeah, like the first season, although it was made in the early 90s, felt very late 80s. It was very, very neon, very colourful, a lot of those pastels that you get, whereas this is much more muted and earth tones and just a lot more 90s, you know, and a lot
very
more
90s,
you know, a lot more. It's got that visual. It's more conservative with the color palette than the first season had a slightly wilder look to it, and you know, in a way, I think it's a shame because. I mean, I grew up on 80s cult cinema, so I'm happy for the freak flag to fly high. But I get that we were getting into the mid 90s now. The X-Files was big, and the X-Files was very stylish and cinematic. And I think we're starting to see the change reflected in Babylon 5 a little bit here.
I just think it's broadening who it appeals to, but while still keeping the integrity of a great story.
Yeah.
You know, it's still world-class viewing that is just aesthetically more of the time.
But I remember back in the day when season 1 of Babylon 5 was on, it looked like a show that only sci-fi fans would watch.
Yeah.
Whereas I remember by the time you get into season 2 and 3 watching it and thinking, yeah, my sister would probably watch this now.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a
not
big
a bad thing.
No, it's not.
Just, you know,
it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it increases the likelihood of the 5-year story being completed.
Yeah, I was going to say anything that allows it to get written and made and we get to rewatch it.
Yeah.
It's all good by me.
So we get the big revelation that the reason that that Sinclair and then humanity essentially was spared at the Battle of the Line was this realization that, and we're really getting into Tolkien territory with the idea of the Minbari becoming diminished. It's like the glow of the tree in, it's the elves. It's the elves from Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's what it is. But what we're seeing here, and you see that in Lord of the Rings, you see the elves talking about, how humanity or the world of men was kind of a bit of a joke at the beginning of Lord of the Rings. It was like they had their chance and they screwed it up. But then there's this idea that there's prophecy that no, there'll be this great allegiance between elves and humans. And that's the kind of mythic archetype that JMS is using here. And I think it's great because he's repurposing it in sci-fi. And the whole idea was that when Tolkien wrote Lord of the Rings was that Britain, or England specifically, didn't have its own creation myth.
Yeah.
It was all stolen from other countries that had invaded, and
Roman,
and he wanted to create a mythic storytelling tradition for England, and so when Babylon 5 rips off, or whatever term you want to use, Lord of the Rings, I think it's just pulling on that mythic fabric in the same way that Star Wars was evoking that. The hero's journey and all of those kind of things.
So many things do the hero's journey.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that Lord of the Rings now is such a foundational text that I don't think you can rip off Lord of the Rings now any more than you can rip off the Bible, or Robin Hood, or the Knights of the Round Table.
It's such classical structure,
and that it was designed to be a storytelling template, and you see that. Gandalf is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker is Frodo. Tatooine is the Shire. It's all the same. Han Solo is Aragorn. It's you see all of these mythic storytelling. But
any big franchise like that has that journey. Harry Potter, fucking Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, aka Harry Potter. As you say, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, the list goes on and on. There's always something.
I mean, crucially though, one of the things about this storytelling tradition that's so fascinating is how it transcends cultures as well. Is that independently, ancient Eastern storytelling tradition, which had no way of knowing what was being written over here, wrote the same stories.
Yeah.
We all just came to this kind of collective understanding. And it's not just as simple as, a boy and a wizard and an evil person. It's really specific. You've got like the gateway, the threshold, the call to arms, the resisting the call to arms, and then tragedy forcing them to reassess that and go back. It's pretty specific, and you see that.
Absolutely.
But I think that what's interesting in the case of Babylon 5 is the idea of introducing storytelling elements that are very specifically related to fantasy as opposed to science fiction, because you didn't get that in Star Trek really until late in Deep Space Nine, when you got like the Par-Wraiths and the Prophets, and I think there was a bit of Babylon 5 influence there, probably
100%.
And Twin Peaks as well. Twin Peaks had brought this idea of, and the X-Files, I guess, as well, of bringing the fantastical into storytelling traditions that normally wouldn't accommodate that. Like
Fringe.
the soap opera or in Fringe, all of these sort of shows. But it is interesting that, like you say, that it's Lanier who gets to tell all of this as well, and we get to see a bit
I
of it.
think it's good that it's linear. It gives him a sense of gravitas and importance that he's needed. I feel like he's needed a bit of cementing of his importance.
Yes.
Like, he is not a comedy sidekick. Yes, he can be funny, like fish out of water.
There's the cultural misunderstandings and all that stuff, isn't there?
But, he is also, there's a reason he's been chosen for this role. He's important and he's good at what he does, and it was lovely to see that.
Yeah. Any final thoughts before we wrap up, Anna?
Well, just like this chat, it was over before I realised. It was just such a brilliant.
Yeah, are we gone for 46 minutes?
Yeah, the episode flew by because it was so well paced and just it was a great standalone in that it had a structure of, the Minbari coming in and Sheridan working out how to sort of get around it without starting a full-scale war.
Yeah.
But also, like you say, drip-fed into the next episode, so it's starting to get very serialised.
And it was clever. The way that JMS managed the trapdoor element of it was that he made sure to weave Sheridan's narrative into the Earth Minbari War.
Yeah.
So that connection is still there. It's different, but it's still there. And he's got that history with
them. He has an importance within that war.
Yes.
Just like Sinclair. Sinclair did.
And the practicality of it is probably because there's stuff coming down the pike later that would have been for Sinclair that they have to make sure connects with Sheridan. But the other thing as well, I think that's interesting about this episode is I think this episode works a lot better as a rewatch, because I think all of I'm not sure about this guy, and I don't know if I like all these changes.
That's how I felt the first time.
And because you haven't got Garibaldi there or Jakar or any of the other ones, that's why I say it's brave, is the fact that it removed, there was no safety net at all. It was like if Boxleitner hadn't worked, they would have been screwed. Because, what you would normally do when you introduce a new lead character is you buoy them up with all of your familiar characters that people like, but because of where their stories were left at the end of the first season, they couldn't do that.
No.
And again, I think it says a lot about Boxleitner that he was able to just on sheer bloody likability alone manage to carry all of that.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
It's a credit to him. Yep. It'd be great to get him for an interview one day.
Yeah. That'd be. I've met him a few times actually. He's a really nice guy. But okay, what are we talking about next time, Hannah?
Okay, so the next episode 2, is called Revelations. Synopsis says, Chakar brings news of an old enemy's return. Dr. Franklin tries to bring Garibaldi out of his coma. Delenn returns quite changed. It is directed by Jim Johnston and written by J. Michael Straczynski.
Awesome. You just reminded me, actually, what you were saying about wanting to watch the next one. I was the same, but and it's interesting because it's not like a clickbaity, I've got to find out what happens. It's more just that there's a sense of momentum.
Yeah.
And you're just like...
that's very much what it is.
It just feels like something you should continue watching.
Yeah.
As opposed to being tricked through marketing writing.
Yeah. It's
to
not a case of The Walking Dead. It's very much just, that acceleration's happening.
Yeah, it's not just a kind of
and
cheap
we're here for it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's us for now, and we're back very soon.
Take care, everybody.
Farewell. And we're back because Hannah has a couple of spoiler comments. What are they?
Just both Cool Daddy and FSM Dog, who wrote spoilers for the last episode, both said the same thing, and we're dumbasses, basically. They both mention that the machine saves Marcus.
Yeah, Ivanova. I hadn't forgotten that.
Ivanova and tries to save Marcus.
Yeah.
And, well, I'd completely forgotten.
No, I hadn't forgotten that. It was just that I knew that this was coming up. This was like 2 or 3 episodes away from...
But they weren't talking about...
in their feedback. Right,
yeah,
okay,
they were talking about further along. So I'm very sorry we kind of chat all over your comments. So apologies for that. That was all I had. But do we have any spoilers on this episode?
It's tricky though, isn't it? Because again, I could do a shopping list.
Yeah.
But no,
there's nothing that I kind of...
There will be, because the main one obviously is the Sheridan Sinclair swap out.
Yeah.
But it's not worth getting into that until all the stuff with Sheridan's wife comes up, because obviously that was all designed for Catherine Sakai.
Yeah.
And they flip it over to her. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, I think a spoiler, talking spoilers, is probably better a little bit further down the line.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's us for now, and we'll see you
care.
soon. Bye-bye.